Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Goju Tech Talk. Let's set the chat. Chat is working. Excellent. Alrighty, here we go. We are going to get into it. Tonight, we're going to talk about three things. Mostly, I hope. But I probably will meander. First, we're going to have a quick discussion to update or give an update on Goju Tech Talk thumbnail generator, otherwise known as this awesome palindrome. That's right. Things are getting wacky. That was not even intentional. Totally an accident. I'm super pumped. And why something like this, I think, is super useful if you're going to create a game. I'm going to try to articulate that. Second, we're going to have a little bit of a deeper dive on two awesome comments from the last video that just got me super inspired. So I want to talk about those a little bit. And then maybe we'll lean into this last piece on starting to piece together how we would build a game using all the things that we learned from the last episode. And we may repeat stuff. Mostly if I repeat it, it probably is that it's super important, but we'll continue to make forward progress on this. However, yeah, that's right. Yep. Big party, T. Actually, your comment is one of the comments that I'm going to talk about on this stream. So, let's get into it. Oh, to start out with our music, tonight's music is actually slightly different. And I found it because of my music with Dream Clinic. But this one is Cosmos Nick Devon. If you can see that. Cosmos Nick Devon. I'll put it in the chat. I'll also drop it in the description. Cosmos Nick Devon. This looks like this might be a smaller artist. Speaking of small, I want to talk we're going to add this to the list. This will be item 0. We're going to talk about being small and the importance of being small. Sorry, guys. There's just like so many things I want to talk about that I think are super important things that I've learned in life, that there's a lot of misinformation out there, I think, that's sending a lot of us, I don't know, not necessarily in the right direction. And I'm going to foster goodwill and speculate that the intention is wholesome, but the advice is not, I think, super great. And I want to talk about this specifically with regard to being small and the importance of, not racing to the end and not ending up being big time, famous, wealthy, best athlete in the world, best scientist in the world, all that stuff. The goal here, I think, is to really understand and love being small. So we'll talk about this at some point, maybe last or something, maybe first. Okay. So we've got our music. We're set there. I'm going to remind myself to not be judgy because it's probably going to be a little difficult because we're going to get into some multiple sides of things, but I'm going to do my best. And I think that's it. So let's get started. Actually, you know what? Let's start with being small, just because this is in some ways top of mind. And I want all of you to kind of understand the way I think about this. So when I teach at the university, by the way, my new camera doesn't have the stuff that my old camera had, like the zoom, and I'm still navigating to get comfortable with it. So I'm just going to just manually move some stuff around as I'm figuring things out. I think the zoom's a little too close, but I wanted the monitor closer. Anyway, so the point that I want to talk about is this idea of the importance of being small and the importance of not wanting to be big, successful, wealthy, perfectly fit, perfect everything. Like not having that in the back of your mind constantly. And instead, maybe actually doing the opposite of that. That's right, the opposite. The idea of doing something and not wanting to get to the finish line. And this is something that I think was a hard lesson for me to learn. But now I really, I lean into this a lot. And for me personally, it's really changed my life. That may sound a bit dramatic, but I mean this in a very serious way. So here's this idea. You have these goals. You're trying to achieve something. So you want to get a bachelor's degree in computer science. You want to have a doctorate in whatever, medical doctorate. You want to be the CEO of a company. You want to be a professor. You just something. You be a super famous actor. Whatever it is, and you imagine yourself sort of at the finish line. Okay, here's the kicker. When you get to the finish line, oftentimes the good stuff is the road to that finish line. The finish line is oftentimes not at all, I think, what we think it's going to be in our head. And on top of that, you have to deal with a lot of stuff at the finish line that is probably far worse than you think in your head. You think, if I was just a professor at this fancy university, all my problems will be gone. I can pretty much guarantee you that's not the case. That's not at all what's going to happen. In fact, you're going to have more problems. There's this saying, right? More money, more problems. Now, admittedly, if you have no money, that's a major problem. But I do believe that there is a very real thing that once you start to get to a certain threshold of wealth, the vultures come out. Where are the vultures when you're not wealthy? They're not around because you don't have money. That actually significantly uncomplicates your life because you don't have to spend all your time figuring out, like, are you real? Are you real? Are you here just for a handout? So now roll this back and imagine that you're small and you're just starting out. When you have people, generally speaking, that support you, when you are a nobody, hold on to those people. Those are the people that really matter. Those are the people, in many cases, that believed in you when no one else did. And those people are oftentimes real because there's nothing to gain from being on your team when you're kind of a nobody, except if you really believe in that person. Like you really just back. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is super altruistic and this kind of thing. We're going to be fiddling with the camera quite a bit. I'm not saying that everybody is. Obviously, if let's say you're a young, very good looking person and you're just starting out, there could be bad actors that want to be around because you have something that they want, and it's not money, it's other things. So obviously this is not like a universal truth, but it is likely true, or at least what I've seen in my life, it tends to be more true that the smaller you are, the more you can potentially trust at least that the people that are around you are real. And that's amazing. That's actually something that I think is super special. And that will start to go away as you become bigger. And once you reach the big time, it can often be very hard to know who's real, who's not real. Therefore, if you get too big too fast and you haven't built up that base, you probably have no idea who's real. This is why being small, going slow can actually be super important, as well as following all the things that we talk about as far as life virtues. Building bridges with people, not holding grudges. So you can, I have this saying, old is gold. Find people that have great integrity, that are traveling a similar path, and hold on to them. That's super important. Now, it's not to say that once you become big, you will only have fakers or vultures or whatever. That's not true at all. I know many people that have hit the big time that, and I probably have a somewhat interesting definition of what big time is, but I think some of you know some of the people that I spend some time with, or who's sort of maybe in my inner circle, and some of these folks are downright amazing. So for those people that I know, I think that they can still have people that show up in their life that are real, but they're very guarded. And for good reason, because the more you have, the more I think people may want the easy win, right? I'm not fostering goodwill here and assuming that everybody's greedy, everybody's bad, everybody's out. But I am being honest in that even people that are kind of latching on to me, I don't necessarily think that these are folks that have bad intentions. It just might be easier, right? And so there's that aspect. And so I'm not saying you have to push all these people away, but there's beauty in this, especially because when you're small and you're starting out, you will often get the core true believers. And that's an amazing thing. For example, at the university, I teach CS329M, machine programming, graduate level computer science, only master's and doctorate students, undergrad, if they're super amazing. When I first start teaching the class, like the first week, I'll, at least like this last year, I probably had 60, let's say 60, 70 enrolled students. All right. By the third week, I think I had 9 students left. So 50 students approximately left the building, which means that's like 80% or so attrition, right? Now, from one lens, you can look at that and say, oh, Goju, you're a terrible teacher. Like, people don't like your class, and that's why people are dropping. The truth is, that could be the case, right? For sure. I need to be growing in all dimensions. I don't think I have anything mastered, and there's always room for improvement. But what the students actually tell me, because many of them will take the class later, is they'll tell me, one, they appreciate my transparency that the class is going to be hard and they just don't have enough bandwidth for super hard. 2, they appreciate my transparency that you're likely going to need to be pretty solid in many things. And they're nervous that like, oh, well, I don't have this background in linear algebra. I have a background in computer architecture because I want background in like the 4 MP domains. Machine learning, software engineering, programming languages, and systems. and I'll walk them through a degree of what I'm looking for. And very few people have this, right? Because machine programming is sort of this evolving field. So what will happen is that almost all the students that have some degree of nervousness about the class being too hard, too demanding, they're not locked, they don't have the background, whatever, they'll vacate the building. And then what's left is a core of people that want the challenge, that want the hard, that want to actually learn. Now, I could pander to the wider audience. I could say, no, this is going to be super easy. You're not going to need that much. And undergrads, welcome, right? I'm sure everybody's going to do fine, and take people down this path. And I could even run it that way, but I don't want to. I don't feel, one, making things easy just so you can get more attention feels like totally the wrong thing in my book. I would much rather make it hard and have it get attention for its hardness and the appreciation that people love that it's hard. Elden Ring, I think, is a great example of this. Elden Ring, that game is legitimately very hard, and I think people, a lot of people, are praising it for its hardness. Not everybody. There's some people that think it's too hard, but I think that's fantastic. So just because something's hard doesn't mean that it's bad. Now, on top of that, so I've 60, 70 students, and now I'm down to 10. Then by maybe week 4, all the students are aware that the other students have vacated. And I teach in this very large sort of auditorium by request and by permission, right? As I've thankfully been, I guess the university is okay with how I've been doing. And so like, yeah, you teach whatever room you want. And it wasn't like that at first. Like I was sort of in the slums. I mean, if there are slums for where, I mean, obviously it's not really slums, but they're basically putting me in the basement, right? And so I had to earn it. And I like that because I do think things could be earned, and I knew what they were doing. And they're like, and I even said, hey, this room's too small. There's too many students. Like students have to stand there, like tough it out and figure it out, Goju. And so I did. Anyway, so now I've upgraded this massive auditorium. And so it seats 250, 300 students. Taylor has been there. Taylor gave a keynote address in it. It's very big. It's like a small movie theater. I choose this classroom even though I know I'm going to bring down the student numbers to like 10 or 20 max, and it's still going to be massive open seats. And keep in mind, like I'm teaching at hours where other classes don't need the room. I'm not like pulling a baller move and stopping like sociology 101 from being taught. So I make sure that the right sort of things are being taken care of. All right. So then what happens maybe week 4, the students, the 10 students or whatever, have spread out, and they're a little nervous. They're kind of like, where'd everybody go? This kind of thing. And I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, so for this lecture, I want you to look around and count the empty seats in the room. Count them. Look at them. And they'll do that, and they'll be like, yeah, there's a lot of empty seats in here. There's not many of us. And then I'll say, this is what being a leader and being a visionary looks like. Every time, this is what being a visionary and leader looks like. It looks like loneliness, because you're not traveling the path that everyone else is traveling. You're ahead of the curve. Keep in mind that one of the things I talk to them about, because they'll ask, like, oh, this is so cool, we're going to learn machine programming. This is going to be all about language models, right? And I'll be like, nope, I'm not going to teach anything related to transformers or language models, even though I could. And I understand deeply how they work. I have like lots of pubs and patents in that space of neural networks. You can look for yourself. I know this stuff fairly well. But no, I'm not going to do that. One, because I feel like it's mostly hype and it's doing us a disservice. And there's other people that are teaching this, and I'm not going to teach hype. I'm not going to do it. And so I'll intentionally lose a whole bunch of students because I think that they're following the wrong thing. And I'll try to explain it. I'll say, like, look, this language model thing, it has all these dangers. Like, if that's what you want to learn, this is not the class for you. And then 30% of the students will drop. And I like that because, frankly, if they think like me being the professor and having the 30 years experience in this and having an idea of like what is potentially good, what is potentially bad, and if they already know the answer, then they don't need to take my class. Like if they already know that language models are the future of everything, and they won't listen to reason about like how they're stochastic and how they're power hungry and they're boiling the ocean, and that's not sufficient. They care about other things. That's okay. It's just not what I'm going to do. So I have a much more nuanced and potentially ethical, and both ethical for us as a species, but ethical in the sense of science, right? Is like, I think it's potentially doing a disservice, or at least it was. Now I think we've swung the pendulum at least a little bit back to center. So maybe this coming year, I will actually start teaching a little bit of language models because there is a bit more balance to the universe. But I want to share that I will do things intentionally to bring our numbers down. And I'll do that because I'm a firm believer of quality over quantity. And so along the same lines, and I want hopefully all of you that are listening to savor this moment, that for the moment we have a relatively small online stream community. Keep in mind, I've done this many times. I know what eventually happens. And I also sort of know that I probably am not going to stop doing this. And then what will happen is over time, hopefully the word will get out, and then more people will be hearing this. But then the downside is the chat may start looking ridiculous, right? Like it does on Asmongold's screen. And I say this from experience, is that when I first created Nodeka, there were 2 people online when I was working on it. And then when it was in sort of its heyday, which was not much, but for a small-time game developer, creating a game when he's 25, it's quite a bit. I mean, we got on the order of maybe 150, nearly 200 concurrent folks playing. And when I would chat with them, the chat would just be, it's like Asmongold's chat. It's nonsense. It's just a stream of whatever. And for the moment, we don't have that. We have a chill environment that's more down to earth. It gives us the opportunity to really zoom in on these things, like the individual comments. And I love that. And I also know that what's probably going to happen is things are going to maybe change, sort of like the number of subs has changed over the last few months. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that when things are small, you should really relish those moments, especially if you're working toward building something great. Because once you get to that great point, those days of being small, they're mostly gone. Like, it's very hard. I think about it like Elden Ring. I absolutely love this game. It's one of the best games I think I've ever played. I can never play Elden Ring again for the first time. I can't. I've already done it. I almost wish my memory could be purged so I could do it again for the first time, because there's something beautiful and elegant in doing things when it's unknown and you haven't arrived. You're the level 1 newbie and you know that you're not great, and the sentinel, the tree sentinel, is just tossing you around back and forth. It gives you something to fight toward. And then when you finish things, when you have graduated, right, you get your PhD, you have your 100 patents, you are doing whatever, you are an 11-time gold medalist for swimming or something. where do you go from there? Right? Is it all down from there? This is one of the major downsides of focusing on the wrong things, like this whole trying to be king of the hill. And your focus is, I just want more money, or I just want the thing. I want to just be done. Because then when you get there, if you get there, what now? So I wanted to share this because I was thinking about this. I actually love, this may sound somewhat strange, but I love that our online streaming community right now is so small. And I'm seeing that it's slowly starting to build. And that's cool too, right? And I don't know. I don't know what the perfect size is. I do think that once you get to several thousand concurrent folks, it can be hard. I do think that maybe, I don't know, maybe like 100 to 500 maybe of interactive people that are being respectful. I think that can be pretty good. So you get a lot of people that are kind of listening, but then once in a while you'll get interesting comments. That might be an ideal space. Like I think Nodeka was in a good spot when we had maybe 100 concurrent users, but there is a point where it gets so big that then you have like the Asmon Gold problem where, and by the way, it is a problem. Right. I mean, a lot of people think that it's just, oh, Asmon's so amazing. Yes, I think Asmon is amazing. And I think that it's hard earned all the people that he has on his chat and on his views. Like I love his origin story. I mean, if there's a guy that I really want people to follow endlessly, it is Asmon. And I realize even by saying this, some people may not like me because there's controversy around him. And by the way, just to be clear, I don't necessarily agree with many of the things that Asmon says or does, but I really like his fight. I really like that he went the journey of being a teenage YouTuber with no followers, like nobody cared, to the hero, the king of the hill that he is, and the things that he learned along the way. I mean, part of the reason why I think that Asmon is in his position is I do think he has really good takes on things. I don't think that he lets the fame get to him. You know, he still lives in his mom's house. The guy's a multimillionaire. He could do a variety of things, and he's just keeping it real. He's doing what he loves. He still like interacts with the chat. He plays video games. He's not out buying a Maserati, or if he is, like, we're not hearing about it. You know, he wears his $10 t-shirts and stuff. I just think it's cool. It's very relatable. It's someone that I feel like a lot of us can get behind. And that's, I think, what someone does that understands arriving is not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to arrive. Asmon has arrived. And so if he did what other people do when they arrive, he'd probably sabotage himself. There's actually this... Okay, I'm not going to say it. There are other people that have arrived, and they're not nearly as wise as Asmon and others, and they have unarrived as fast as they've arrived. And I think that, again, this goes back to the importance of being small. If you think that being small is something that you want to get over so you can be big and huge, and then suddenly once you get to that point, you're invincible, you're a superhero, I got to tell you, you got another thing coming. It doesn't work like that. Like, you should always behave in the way that you're small. This is my strong conviction. You should always treat people with care. The waiter that's giving you your food, the person that's cleaning your house, the landscapers, the checkout clerks at the gas station or the grocery store, all that stuff, right? That is something that I think is just a sign of goodness. And as we discussed before, it's the good people that become great people. It's not the people that are striving for greatness that become great. I mean, maybe they become great, but I think great villains. I think they don't end up being great heroes. So if you're in a spot right now let's make this now about you. If you're in a spot where you're feeling small, like you're feeling like you haven't done it, you haven't arrived, you're working really hard and you're feeling like things are not moving forward, I can almost guarantee you that things are moving forward. It's just very hard to observe. I think one of the analogies that uh, has been used quite a bit is this idea of water turning to ice. Is that if you put water in your ice cube tray and you put it in the freezer for a very long period of time, it looks like nothing is happening. But a lot of stuff is happening. You just can't see it. And then almost instantly, it turns to ice. It's like within seconds, it goes from being water and then it's ice. The point is that it's not the transition from water to ice in that instant where it's like, oh, it's ice now. It was that, do you see a transition in those 2 seconds? Those 2 seconds are just a final piece. It's all the time that it was in there, getting adjusted, changing, the things that you can't see but are actually happening under the surface that are changing. All of those things are likely happening to you if you're going down this path of growth. You just can't see them. You just can't observe that they're happening, but they are happening. There's little micro fractures that are happening, and those micro fractures are really good because those happen when you're growing, right? When you grow, that's why like muscles and stuff, they break down so they can grow. And so you'll create micro fractures and then you get bigger and you get bigger and you're better. And then suddenly you are transforming into something, but you have to give yourself time for the process. On top of that, once you do arrive at that destination, you could very well find that, wow, the journey was way better. And I was so focused on this, I missed all of that. So what I'm saying basically is don't miss that. Allow yourself time to really lean in and feel that pain, feel those struggles. Take a journal and journal them, or experience them and love the moment, like I'm doing right now with the chat. I've been down this path. I remember when I was first creating Nodeka, and I was like 25, and I was living in my apartment, and I was working on the game, and I'd see 2 people on the who list, like me and one other player, basically. And at the time, I was young, and I wasn't nearly the wise old man that I am now. And I remember thinking, this is never going to amount to anything. I should just quit. So easy. It's so easy to quit. That's what most people do. It's so easy to just give in and be like, there's nothing happening here. But there was something happening. Just like there's something happening here with the chat. Is like, the difference is I'm 50 now. I've been down this path. I know to love this moment because I do love this moment. I want to savor this because this too is likely to change. And it's likely going to change in a positive way. I mean, right? Like, for example, if we're already at the bottom, basically there's only 2 people on the chat. Let's say that that's what it is. Well, then it can just get better. There's only one way it can go, which is up, right? So it's going to go in that direction, or it's just going to stay here. It can't possibly go that way. Again, going back to the whole more money, more problems, is that once you've been successful or you've accomplished something, now you have a whole bunch that you can lose. And this is a different space. You have to think about different things. Like, should I talk about this? Should I do this? It's just a different spot. So I guess this is my level way of saying, enjoy the moments of those minor successes where you feel like the big one is eluding you, and don't try to avoid the mindset that is all that matters. It's like when I ask my students, what's more important than getting an A in my class? And many of them are dumbfounded. And then someone will say, what we learn in the class? Yes. Because the letter grade is, I mean, in the moment, it may feel like that's the only thing that matters. In the moment, like, oh my gosh, if there are only 1,000 people on the chat, then what? No one can read the chat? I mean, get big and get boring, right? Like, just do the stuff. Exactly. Yeah. Reading Taylor's comment reminds me a lot of the story of Stardew Valley creator, mostly around the struggle, time invested, and then eventually that big breakout moment. Yeah. For example, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm talking about Nodeka. This is a thing that I built in my 20s, and I worked on it pretty heavily for maybe 7 years or so. I'm running it still because I follow the philosophy that I'm trying to promote, which is stop killing games. And Nodeka doesn't really make any money at all. In fact, it costs money, but there's still people that play it and they love it. And so why would I shut it down? Like, it's just, if those players are enjoying it and it's not too much, I should just be faithful to those that are faithful to me. But it's interesting now because when I was creating Nodeka, my goal with Nodeka was never so it could be this massive thing. And Nodeka may never be this massive thing. But think about the story now. The story arc is now I have this channel and I'm explaining how to build a video game. And largely that's predicated by my 10, 20, whatever years building Nodeka. And it's a completely different dimension of this discussion. This wasn't planned. I didn't have any plans. In fact, I wasn't even going to talk about Nodeka. It was until untranslatable metaphor was like, talk about your game. We should talk about the game more and explain how to build a video game and stuff. And it's like, oh, right. Yeah, that's actually a really good thing. So it's amazing how things that you care about, that you work on in a really deep way, end up paying you back 1,000-fold in ways that you never have anticipated. You never could have possibly anticipated. And you did it not for those reasons. You did it because you cared. You did it because you loved it. You did it because you truly are a missionary. And so maybe try to keep this in mind as you're going through life, especially when you're having those moments where things feel down, because more likely than not, things might be going in a much better direction than you're aware. Excellent. And Taylor's saying, I'm a huge +1 behind keeping a game community sustained as long as the players are willing to play. Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, when I was first creating Nodeka, and I'm telling you the story that there's 2 people on, I think when we looked at the site, when we brought up the Nodeka website, we could see there's 20 players on. That's cool. I mean, that's mind-boggling. That I haven't made updates to the code, honestly, in, I don't know, I feel like at least 5 years, maybe more than that. And even then, it was mostly dabbling. So if there's 20 people playing the game and they're enjoying it, that was one of the goals, is to get people to play the game. So I've achieved that. Why would I shut it down now? Because, like, oh, it's a minor inconvenience for me? That seems silly. Like, that's definitely not what missionaries do. Missionaries, I think, would see that people like playing the game, and even if it's 25 years later, they would find a way to, like, ensure that people can still enjoy that, even if it's not getting them necessarily like a monetary win, because the money is not the primary concern. Again, how I was telling you that missionaries will expose themselves. Missionaries will just tell you who they are through their actions. All you have to do is just look at their actions and be like, you're clearly a missionary, because you do stuff that if you weren't a missionary, you wouldn't be doing. It's like that's the CEO that Taylor and I were talking to. Like, this guy has created multiple companies. He's super wealthy. He's highly successful. And what he really wanted to talk about at the very beginning was a super exciting thing that he figured out related to this technology that he was looking at when he was in grad school. And it was the basis for, like, the first company that failed, at least the way he was explaining it. And he was so excited about this thing that he literally spent the first 20 minutes or so talking just about this one thing. It doesn't even have to do with what we're meeting about. And I loved every minute of it. It was like a popcorn moment. Like, oh my gosh. And I actually dovetailed off of that, and that was the basis of the majority of our 2-hour conversation. That piece, that's something that I think a missionary will do. They'll do that type of care. So Anyway, if you ever wonder like why I continue to do things that seem to be like, why does Goju do this when like he doesn't have a huge streaming audience? That's part of the reason why is I like that. I think it's actually pretty cool. And the truth is, if the streaming audience gets too big, I might actually stop doing the stream so it'll chill out because I also know that there's potentially too much noise, right? Like I want it to be something that it can actually feel like we are having a conversation. And I don't know actually how to do that once you get to a certain scale. I mean, maybe that's another problem for another day. Okay, cool. We've knocked this one out of the park. Let's not talk about this anymore, at least for now. Now we have 3 more topics. Update on this thing, discussion of Too Awesome, and then starting to build the game. So let's start with this thingamabob. But before we do, I need to take a short break and refill my drink and stuff. But before I take a step away, I wanted to share with you this image. This is created by our thingamabob. This guy. This is our thumbnail generator. Hopefully it's not in a completely broken way. Yeah, we're going to get into, it's got some strange artifacts, but you're going to see some pretty interesting stuff. And by the way, I vibed this to its current state in, I don't know, just like an hour or two, maybe 2 hours this afternoon. And I'll show you that it can do some pretty cool things, I think, because I'm trying to be fair about the whole vibe coding thing. And I'm going to share with you the pros and the cons as best I can, as best I see it. But anyway, I wanted to share this image because at one point I was trying to throw this some curveballs, and I had it I asked it to generate images that are like in this space, but instead they would be images of Taylor or of me. So I asked first for it to do Taylor. This is actually not you, T. This is me, I guess. And I think I saved the ones that it did of you, but we'll ask it to generate some photos, images of you. And it's pretty interesting, its take. I thought this was really funny because what I asked it to do, just to be clear, just so everybody's on the same page, is I said, when I asked it to generate an image of Taylor, I said, generate an image of Taylor Dolezal. You can search the internet to figure out who he is. And then I said, generate an image of Goju from Goju Tech Talk. And that's it. That's all I said. I didn't say anything else. And then this is what I guess I'm, so I feel like I have a weapon here. I'm okay. And I'm in survival mode. I think I feel like I'm in like a post-apocalyptic, I can't say this word, but basically a dystopia type of environment in near future-ish. And it seems like I'm in survival mode getting messed up. I don't know if this looks like me at all, but it does seem like the kind of dark theme stuff that I would, and keep in mind the dark theme is the dark theme it figured out on its own, because T, for you, it didn't have dark theme at all. In fact, we'll just drop this in before I run to take my break. And we'll just set this to, actually, we'll create a few. Yeah, 8's probably enough. Okay. And we'll get into some wacky things. So let's, I do need to take a short break, but let's play a little bit more. And notice too that we're in full wacky mode here. So as I think I mentioned, I don't do prompts, but I will do meta prompts. And so the meta prompt is, yeah, so that's not you, Taylor. I mean, I appreciate that it thinks that you're a super athlete. Like you are very athletic, but I feel like, okay, how about this? Taylor Dolezal, who is the head of product and chief of staff at Merly and former head of ecosystem at the CNCF Linux Foundation. Let's try this. Oh, and by the way, this thing is at least marginally asynchronous now. And so, and that's by design. So check this out. While it's doing this, I can be, oh, it's not supposed to do that. It was just supposed to delete one row. So clearly this thing is all kinds of buggy. Okay, cool. Oh, sweet. This is, whoa. Damn. Damn, son. Taylor. Holy cow. I mean, this is some legit awesome stuff. Like it's even got the cloud in there for Cloud Native Computing Foundation. I mean, holy moly. Oh my gosh, look at this, T. Like, this legit looks like you. Okay, that's more my hair. That totally looks like you right there. If I saw this guy or I saw you on the side, I would think it's the same person. Wow. That is awesome. Okay, cool. And you probably noticed that I'm using the arrow keys here because, yep, I built that in. I can do this. Look at this. I can click over here and do this stuff. All right, check this out. I'm going to show you something that's, I think, pretty cool. And this is kind of like how I think about software is once I, yeah. By the way, I think you guys know how I roll. And look, I didn't write this code. So I'm not saying that you should use this for production. So don't. But for any of you that are on this channel that want access to the code so you can fiddle around with this yourself, I've put it into the new GTT, the Goju GTT repo. This is all public source. This is all public. So if you find me, I just created this today, and I have this how I built a video game. Right, this is this thing, and then we're gonna have lots of these. So this is the Goju Tech Talk thumbnail vibe project, and I have the original version 0, which you can look at as kind of boring. But then you have the more recent version, and this is what I'm showing right now. This is you take this code, you run it. I'm not sure if you'll need like a Gemini Pro account because I have that. I think it'll still work. It may just like bandwidth regulate you or something, but you can use this all entirely on your own. So, but check this out. This is another thing that I added. And I think this is the point that I'm trying to make with once you start building real software tends toward chaos. Okay, think about you have order and you have chaos. And when you clean your house is tending toward order. It has increased order. You're cleaning things up. It's getting organized. As you're creating software and the software is getting used, it is tending toward entropy, increasing chaos. The way I think about it is order, chaos, it's moving in this direction. So you need to manage this. And the reason why it tends toward chaos is that as you build something that's useful, there's more stuff to build. So I'm just getting started. Like I haven't even begun. And I can tell you that I'm already reaching the cognitive capabilities of this thing. It's really starting to take a while, right? I think I mentioned that by the next time we do an episode, it'll probably be 500 lines of code because I'll just keep fiddling with it. So yeah, we're at over 800 lines of code now, and it's starting to struggle. But anyway, one of the things that I added that I thought would be really cool is check this out. We can click this button, and then I can say, now what it's going to do is it's going to reason about those images that it just generated. It's going to figure out specifically the one that I just clicked on. So the one that I had up there that I thought looked like T, it's going to make another set of images that are based off of that one. So it's going to reason about this, create a new prompt. Then it's going to take these additional keywords that are part of the meta prompt, and it'll figure out what that is, and it'll fuse these two things together and generate new images based off of both reasoning about the image and the additional meta prompt that I just added it. And so in theory, what we should get is more Taylor Dolezal, but dark themed. Now I'm not, look, it's a language model and it doesn't always get it right. So it was kind of not doing it. Woo! Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. It's getting dark in here. Look at this. This is what it was before. This is what it is now. Oh, yeah. Taylor Dolezal has just become chaotic good. Look at this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at this. Let's do one more minor twist. So now he's in dark mode. And now I asked it to take that image that I love. There's this last one, more like this, but now I make him do battle with something big and ominous. I don't even specify what the thing is, so I don't know what it's going to do. By the way, what you should be able to do is click this button and it just deletes. Woo! Yeah, T, you are... Oh, yeah. Here we go. All right, we are... Yeah, I know, right? That's actually what I'm already starting to use it for, is these are coming into my slides as well. Like, this is so legitimately awesome. Yes. So here it looks like it's giving you magic. So you have some like magical powers or something. Yeah, and by the way, it's just decided to make this all cyberpunk. That was not, I didn't, yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, exactly. This is like a BT from Death Stranding. Yeah, that is super awesome. And look, it's like a juxtaposition of this darkness with this lightness. Oh, and by the way, I have a key thing about being off center. We'll talk about this in a second. But yeah, this is just, it's like, feels like it's out of Tron now as well. And here it looks like you've got like some kind of lightsaber combo sword thing. It's not entirely clear, but that's also cool. More BT fighting. This is like BT Wraith. Now it looks like you have like a spear. I mean, it's definitely getting pretty wacky. Now keep in mind, like, and this is something that I think a lot of people are kind of missing, is that I think they're using the AI. You know how I was saying, I think people often are using the AIs kind of in this, Well, it's just like a basic way. It's like they have this little prompt and they write like a little prompt. Oh, by the way, it does have these bugs. So it just wiped out all of our images, which is a bit of a bummer. We'll fix that, but that's okay. These are all makeshift. Again, stochastic systems, and why I'm saying it's a toy. It's a toy, guys. So just because it's a toy doesn't mean it's not useful, but it does mean that with toys, you can't rely on toys because toys will do stuff like that. Like I didn't click anything. I was just scrolling over here and it just decided, well, I've had enough. I'm going to just drop all those awesome images that I just built. Anyway, so the point I was trying to make is that the way I think about a lot of these systems is it's more interesting to go down the rabbit hole and to spiral and to do the Archimedean spiral. And so what's happening is when you generate the first set of images, it's like I'm starting it. But then what happens is I start then having the AIs feed the AIs, is that it's taking its own AI thing. I'm giving it slight hints. And then it's also doing from the meta prompt, the generation of the actual prompt, and then feeding that to the AI. And we're going down this really deep hole by iterating more and more and more. And I think that again is the beauty of doing things like meta prompting is once you pull yourself out directly of the prompt, like check this out. For example, let me try something. I haven't actually tried to do this, but we'll see. Generate an image of a friendly and cute animal. All right. I want to just show you something that I think could be something interesting. So this is my meta prompt, and it's going to add all the fancy stuff. You'll see the prompt in a second. So again, keep in mind we're meta prompting here. And by the way, that augmentation to then change the image to do the enhancements, that's also meta prompting. I'm meta prompting because it's going to then regenerate this whole thing, right? All right. So, but there's more things you can do from the AI on AI, like this button. Okay. This button is specifically so I can be even more lazy than I already am. I'm already super lazy. I'm basically saying, I'm not going to write this nonsense. I'm going to write this and you're going to figure this out. Now I'm taking my laziness to the nth degree. I'm not even going to write this. I'm going to click this button. So you generate a new meta prompt. That meta prompt generates this new prompt. And from that, it's going to generate these new images. So here it regenerated the text, generated an image of a cute animal looking curious. All right, cool. Let's see. It's going to regenerate, or it should regenerate the enhanced prompt. I don't know if it did or not. Yeah, okay, it just did. I saw it change. And then now this should potentially be different. Yeah, so it's different, right? And then I'm going to click this again. So generate a new meta prompt for me. All right. And now generate images. Like this is the level of Goju lazy, is that I'm all about automation. And once I can figure out how to really make it a closed loop system, I'm going to have the system feed itself. Right. And it's like levels of AI on AI on AI. And so now we can pick this one and be like, cool, I like that. Now make it dark. Let's take this cute little fluffy animal and now let's get dark. Let's see what it does. It's regenerated the prompt. I saw that happen. Right? So, and this is why it's taking a little bit longer. Oh, this is like, okay, look. All right. Darker Jeetga. We're gonna have to figure out some way to say this now. Darker Jen. I have to come up with a really clever nickname for this thing, since we're clearly going to be playing with this quite a bit. And oh yeah, it's getting darker. Oh, oh, it's definitely getting okay. Now keep in mind, this is where we started. Fluffy, 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 fluffy. Okay, and then we like getting. This is when it did. I had it create a new prompt that's like the other one but different, right? And then it did this one, and it's still. Oh, this one I think. Yeah, I clicked another button. Then I asked it to get dark around here or here. Yeah, here this was make it darker. And then here it was like, no, but have it like darker. I want it to fight something. So now it's getting like, okay. And this is at least darker, fighting another animal and off center. I'm really keen on this off center thing. Like when things are centered, I think they're super boring. I'll explain this in gross detail in a second. But I think most of us actually are far more interested in things that are off center. When you see things that are perfectly centered or perfectly symmetric, our mind often, I think the psychological studies show that we are not interested in that. Here we go. All right. Now we're talking. Okay. It went from this to this to this to this to this. And the beauty is it's almost all the AI doing all the work. Like I'm doing very little. By the way, if I did this right or the AI did it right, what we should be able to do now is click this button and then click this button and then generate, and it should not delete these ones. It should stay, everything should stay the same. And then it should add another set. But keep in mind that this set will probably be similar to like, oh, maybe not. Maybe it's following this. Uh-oh, these guys are getting, wow. This is getting, okay. That guy's broken-ish. And it is off center. Like this one might be, man, these are all really good. Like this one feels, these two feel like it went from kind of being playful and fun and artsy. Like I know what's going on right now. People have stopped listening to me. You've downloaded the code and you're fiddling with yourself, right? Okay, that's fine. That's why I made the code available. But keep in mind, I'm gonna step away for a moment so I can bio break and stuff. But keep in mind, this is vibe coded, and yeah, the border thing. Yeah, there's a ton of bugs that we need to sort out, but it's slowly coming together. But yeah, the borders sometimes show up, and then it doesn't. Obviously, language models, no matter what people say, they're stochastic systems, and stochastic systems, because they lack determinism, mean they don't have to listen to you. So I can suggest things, and then it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Part of the reason for that is they don't actually understand, not like in the sense that we do. For example, if I give it strong critiques on this image and say, like ask it to do something very specific, like for example, make this, our hero of this fight only have 3 arms, it might get it wrong and be like, have it be this one, or it might give it a 5th arm. So anyway, just keep in mind that, as we've discussed many times, stochastic system, unreliable results. And so you need to know this going in. Using language models for things that are principally soft science or open to interpretation, they are subjective, is a brilliant way, in my mind, to use them. And yes, you can use them for coding or app development in this capacity, like I am right here, but you have to know this is throwaway code. And if you wanted to use this in production, what we would have to do is we'd have to go through all of this. I would rewrite all of this code. So what this is doing, this is giving me a sketch of, it's essentially teaching me the syntax, and then I would go through and I would rewrite all of this. Every single line, I would do that because I don't know where the security vulnerabilities live. I don't know if it has various other issues that it's adding stuff that it shouldn't add. Like, again, this is all one file. Like, it's probably copy pasted mumbo jumbo garbage that we shouldn't be doing. That's just bad general rules, right? Like, there's so much to improve here, but really good for rapid prototyping of low fidelity code. Really good. And that's what we're using it here for. And this, I think, goes back to one of the higher order points that we're trying to make for this series of videos, which is this one, is that as you're building anything big, I'm talking about software development here. If you're building anything big, like you're building Mentor, you're building Nodeka, you're building your video game, you're going to likely need ancillary tools around that thing that help you. Those ancillary tools don't need to be production quality because you're just going to use them like in-house. For example, for GTT, I am using this for the thumbnails. In fact, the thumbnail for this episode is from this generator. That's where it came from. And I can do that because it's not production quality, right? The thumbnail doesn't really have to do with the content, not really. And then on top of that, it's entirely in my control. That it's not doing something that is critical to the process. And if we were going to use it in a critical way, if we were going to make this a real product and try to promote it and sell it or whatever, we would go through all of this because this is, as we saw, it does some wacky things. It becomes super unreliable. Sometimes, like, what is this stuff here? This doesn't work the way that I want it to. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that still needs to be worked out. But if you're okay with things that are just kind of like in this nebulous state where it's a bit flimsy, but it's making you more productive, it can be great for that. And the truth is, we've been doing this type of thing for decades. It's essentially called scripting. As we write scripts, we write Bash scripts, and we write Python scripts, and we write Java scripts to do various things because they're tasks that we have to do and that they can automate it for us and do it in a fast way, which is what this is doing. And by the way, yeah, so the trash thing is, you'll notice it doesn't wipe out the images now each time. I actually have to manually trash it, and so I can trash an entire row. So let's say this one. Yeah, and so that's good. And then I also have the save all images. I can click, and then it'll save everything. And then to clear it, I have this clear images. So true, I've seen so many glue code. Yeah, right, it's just the glue code stuff. And then at some point, if you need to up-level the glue code stuff, then you do. But it's a process. It's that you say, okay, now we're going to use this as part of like a robust piece of our pipeline. Now we need to level this up. It's no longer a toy, right? And at some point, it's possible that this thumbnail generator will not be a toy. And when it isn't, then we'll up-level the whole thing. And I will review all this code, or the team will review all the code. We'll rewrite it, and it'll be 1,000 times better. But for right now, this is way better than what I could have done on my own, right? I'm not an expert in JavaScript, but I do know generally what I'm trying to do. And as long as I can clearly articulate that, then I can do that. Now, I want to also lean into the fact that the truth about vibe coding is that if you don't know how to code, like if you really don't know how to read all this stuff, what I've seen in fiddling with this just this weekend, and I've seen it when I've fiddled with stuff in the past, it gets stuck. It's going to get stuck as it gets more complicated. And if you can't go in and look at it and be like, for example, one of the things that got stuck on before is I would click the image and I would go to generate more like this. and I couldn't type here. There's no, I was unable to type any text. And I asked it to fix it. I can't type any text. And it's like, no, it's right. And then I was like, okay, I think I know what's going on. So I explained it to it and said, here's what's going on. You've made it locked, so it's uneditable because that's what you're doing for this other piece. You're not allowing it to be edited using this. And so you made the same mistake. You made this other one like that. This one needs to be editable. So I'm basically doing all the debugging to help it understand what's doing wrong, and then having it fix it. That comes from like a somewhat deep and nuanced understanding of software, that if you don't have that level of sophistication with code or software systems, you probably don't know why it's getting stuck. And so this notion that you can vibe your way to something like this without any knowledge of coding, I think that's mostly bogus. I think that if you have an understanding of software engineering and code just generally, I think you can probably do really cool low fidelity prototypes, validation of ideation with vibing your way into whatever, generally with limited understanding of the programming language. And keep in mind, the programming languages that the vibers are going to mostly do today is going to be mostly scripted languages. And the reason for that is they're going to be things you can kind of embed in your browser because that's just the lowest friction. That's why JavaScript and TypeScript are like the key vehicles to present much of this stuff. All right. With that, I'm going to take a short break. We can all look at this. Actually, I'm going to... While we're waiting, see, I'm gonna wipe out all of this nonsense. I'm gonna have it do this, and I'm gonna have it create a whole. Oh, I guess that's its limit. Okay, cool. So while I step away, this guy is gonna do some stuff, and it'll probably be done by the time I get back. Okay, here we go. All right, folks. We're back. Let's take a look. Awesome. Whoa. This is like full. I think it definitely wants to put you, Taylor, into Death Stranding. Like this feels straight out of Death Stranding. Wow. Okay. You've got 3 arms, and that third arm is there's something weird going on with the hand there, but hey, happens to the best of us, bro. Cool. Yep. Wow. That's cool. Yeah, and you can see there's various things like something's going on here. But again, like we're going in knowing that it's not perfect, and we're not looking for perfection. We're just like we sort of our baseline is in some ways nothing. So this is in my mind way better than nothing. Yeah, and then sometimes it does this weird border thing. Yeah. This one I think is pretty cool. Aside from, it looks like that hand is like a little strange. That aside, I think that one might be my favorite. Now, I would save some of these, but the problem is you unfortunately get to see my folder system a little bit to do that, and we need to have none of that, so we're not going to save. But we now know where the source code is. It is under MIT or Apache license, which basically means there's no warranty on this. And don't use this for anything production, please. This is just a toy that I vibed to in a day, basically. And it probably has all kinds of issues. So use it just as the toy that it was intended to be. And I think we'll be good. Okay. It's just getting a little chilly. All right, now we got our typical blue background. In fact, I can turn this a little bit, and then you'll feel like it's almost like a normal GTT episode. There we go. All right. So hopefully that was fun. And that is the state of our thumbnail generator. And you can do all this stuff yourself. I did upgrade to the Pro just because I think that the non-Pro version was just bombing. It was just getting too complicated. And so the Pro one, I think, starts to handle more code. And again, this isn't even... I hear the words of untranslatable metaphor in my head saying, don't say it, Goju. Don't say that like code that's under a small size is like not real. So I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say instead is that this is only 800 lines of code, and it hasn't been thoroughly vetted in any capacity. So you shouldn't trust this, and it needs to be rewritten. But if you want something that you can fiddle with, as an example of something that you can get from vibe coding, like I think that we have that. Cool. And I'm using it. I think it's pretty great. And after this tea, if it hasn't eaten these, I'll save these and I'll send some of them to you, so you can use them as your new avatar or something. You can be like, Goju's thumbnail generator created these live on one episode, and so now this is perpetually my avatar. If not, if it does wipe them out, I'll generate another batch and I'll send those to you, and you can see if those warrant being used as your avatar or something. But yeah, so going back to the point I was making before is that, yeah, I think did it just eat it? Yeah, like that's crazy that it just eats it if you resize it. But this was me, I guess. I mean, I do have glasses, right? So I don't wear them all the time. And then now we have seen like what it looks like when it is creating them for you. All right, now I want to talk about the other two pieces, which is discussion on 2 awesome comments on last video, which is going to take us down the path of video games. And then, and in fact, you know, what I think I'm going to do is I may save this last one for later, since it's getting kind of late in the day. I mean, not really, but I have some other... I kind of have this rule that once we hit about an hour and a half in the streams, I can kind of like be wrapping this up a little bit. Yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours is sort of, I think, a good place to stop, at least for things that are going on right now. So yeah, let's just talk about these two comments a little bit and then talk about the other stuff next time. All right. So the two comments I want to talk about are Taylor's and then this other person's. And since we've been focusing on Taylor for like the last hour, mostly because Taylor's just so awesome, we'll instead focus on this guy a little bit and kind of the interesting points that he's making. He or she. All right. Interesting video. Your game kind of has the same vibe as Dwarf Fortress. Had never heard of Dwarf Fortress, but I think I bought it or I'm in the process of buying it to check it out. Your game kind of has the same vibe as Dwarf Fortress, not in terms of genre or gameplay, but in the richness, scale, and variability. So, wow, that's incredible. Again, now that I know that the folks that built Dwarf Fortress, I think, are the same ones that built Caves of Khud, which is, I think, as all of you know, one of... I love this game. This is such a brilliant game. And I got totally schooled by it. Like, I thought I was hacking on the game and beating it, and it was like just secretly beating me. And as in typical form, I didn't really play this many hours, but I definitely was. I mean, as you can tell, I unlocked 21 of these, and some of these are really strange. Like, only 2% of the players unlocked this one because, yeah, as Taylor's pointing out, I was drinking lava. One point, like, I'm just doing some strange stuff. So I take that as really high praise. These days, it feels like most games focus more on graphics than gameplay, and as a result, we're losing an era of truly deep, complex experiences. Of course, there are some exceptional cases. Yeah, like Death Stranding, potentially, which is very graphics rich, but probably has a really good story. I haven't played the second one yet, but the first one was really good, at least the parts that I played. And same thing with Elden Ring and Cyberpunk. Those games, I think, are graphically intense, but they also still deliver. But I think that it's, at least from my perspective, and I absolutely agree with him here, or her here, which is, and this is why I want to talk about this, you don't need graphics to create an incredible video game. You don't. You can make it entirely text, or you can do things like ASCII art, and you can still make something that is amazing, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the graphics or the non-graphics for like Caves of Khud, but it's like, this is what the game looks like. This is the graphical fidelity of Games of Khud. Like, this is it. This is not a joke. This is what the game looks like. Look at this. This is some 8-bit old school whatever. And you see the games that I play, right? So I've got Cyberpunk on here, which is like massive graphic fidelity. I've got Death Stranding on here. I've got Elden Ring. I've got Fallout, Hades. I mean, we just go down the list of all these super just advanced graphics games. And then you have games like this that don't have the graphics. And truthfully, for I think the hardcore gamers, we don't care. We literally don't care. If the game is good, we'll play it. That's it. We know the graphics are eye candy. And I mean, sure, eye candy's fun. But if it's all of it is just eye candy, that's the only thing that it is, we're not going to like it. I can pretty much guarantee you, those of us that are real gamers, we're going to play it for 7 seconds and be like, this game sucks. It's pretty, but I can't play this because it has no gameplay. There's no mechanics. There's nothing interesting going on here, and I am out. And I want to share something with you that I saw recently that I think perfectly captures one of the things that I was feeling which is and it was okay. I don't know if you guys can quite see this. Let me see if I can click on this.
Andor versus the Acolyte.
And mostly what I want to do is I want to get to... All right. Here we go. This is what I mean. On the left is Andor. He's saying masterpiece. On the right is Acolyte. Canceled. Both of these shows are about Star Wars. They're both, I guess, from Disney or whatever. Disney, Lucas Arts, kind of, you know how it is. Disney, Marvel, Disney, Lucas, Disney, everything. And I think there's a very clear reason why this show on the right is a total bomb and mostly garbage. That's a strong word, but boy, it's not good. And this show is considered by many people one of the best Star Wars shows maybe ever created. And they're created around the same time from the same company, right? So how is it possible that you could have one Star Wars show? These are both TV shows, both on Disney Plus. You can have one that is one of the lowest rated Star Wars things ever, according to Rotten Tomatoes anyway. And then the other where it's like the highest rated, potentially the best. And that's because the freaking story matters. It's the nuance. It's the depth. That's what matters. That is going to engage people. That's why I was saying, like, this whole thumbnail thing, I'm not too concerned about it. That if people don't watch GTT because our thumbnails suck, okay. That's a little bit of a bummer, but I don't really care. But if people don't watch GTT because they think the content is shallow, that would bother me. I would want to try to resolve that if that's actually like a intellectually honest and genuine comment. I'd like to figure out what is shallow, what can I do to make it not shallow, because I want depth, because I think depth is what ends up building masterpieces. So there's another episode I think that I saw that was like deep and shallow, and maybe it's, if we look at images here, we can see it might have been just like from a small channel, which by the way is I like. So I saw this, but basically it had this on one side. It was like Andor, and it was saying, let's just try this. Andor, deep, Acolyte, shallow. Yeah, I'm not finding it, but you get the idea. It was kind of like this: is that one side it was deep, and the other side it was shallow. Maybe somebody in the chat can find it on YouTube and drop the link, and then I'll bring it up so you can just see the thumbnail. But this is, I think, the point that I'm trying to make is that you can have a game like Games of Could that on the surface is something that people are like, who would play this game? Certainly not like people with PhDs that are the big boss of companies and that are professors. Oh no, they will. Because when you create a brilliant thing, what I think happens is really people that deeply care about those things will be drawn to, even if the cover of the book is not all that impressive. Like, the truth is that this actually has some appeal to me. Like, I like that they're saying, look, we're not a huge studio. We can't compete. And so we're not even going to try. I like it. Didn't stop me from buying the game. Didn't stop me from spending a whole bunch of time playing the game. You can do the same thing. That as an indie game developer, you can do what I did with Nodeka, which is just like lean into the fact that these are your strengths. Your strengths are that you care. Your strengths are that you're going to give this the attention and the love that it deserves, whereas the big studios are probably going to gloss over this and produce yet another whatever the latest sort of AAA slop that some of them are producing. And I'm trying to find an example, but mostly I try to stay away from that stuff in my list of games. There might be some sloppiness in here, but I don't think so. I think that, yeah, like here's another one, right? As Taylor was mentioning, Stardew Valley, right? Stardew Valley. This game is like laughably bad when it comes to the graphics, but the gameplay and the engagement is actually quite curious. I mean, it's surprising how interesting something as simple as a modified version of Farmville or whatever can be. And a lot of people are totally addicted to this game, and rightfully so. I think that it's what happens when you create a game that has really good game mechanics, and it goes back to the difference between Alkalite and Andor. Andor is a show that like if you watch Andor, what you will find is there's nuance. There's complexity. Things are not super straightforward, which is real life, which is how people are in a dynamic sense. There is this like you're universally perfect or you're universally not perfect. Good guys can make bad decisions. Bad guys can make good decisions. People can swap their positions. Sometimes a bad guy can become a good guy and stay a good guy. Sometimes a bad guy can become a good guy and then go back to being a bad guy. Sometimes it's just a bunch of guys and there's no distinguishing good or bad. It's just a whole bunch of people trying to do something and they all have their own agenda and they're just going to follow their own motivation. And that can be beautiful if it's captured the right way, is you give it depth. And oftentimes what I find is that people that are interested in these types of things, they're interested in playing games, they're interested in watching shows, they're interested in YouTube channels, whatever, they're not the TikTokers of the world, right? Like, sure, the TikTokers of the world, if they want a 15-second hit, no judgment. If that's what you want, do that. That's just not for me. That's not what I'm setting out to do. That's not the stuff that I'm interested in. And that's why GTT episodes, like our clips aside, they're all long form. Because I'm of the mind that nothing of value, nothing of serious and significant value can be done quickly. You can't explain the complexities of vibe coding and how it's good and bad with a soundbite. You need to experience the magic of it that we just saw, as well as the patheticness of it. Where the F did all those images go? Welcome to the world of vibe coding, guys. Right? It's nuanced. It's a little tricky, this love-hate relationship. But you gotta like look at it from all sides. And don't take this really like. My hope is, at least for Jeters, we'll be able to at least agree on this one thing, and that is having a universal take on something that exists in perpetuity, irrespective of data that is coming out about those things, is probably a bad idea. What I mean is, you say, like, I absolutely love this thing, and that will never change. So I love this. This is my favorite food, spaghetti, and that will never change ever. Spaghetti will always be my favorite food. What about food you haven't tried yet? What about different variants of spaghetti? What about if you like lose the ability for tanginess on your tongue, right? What if you have to go on a super low carb diet and you have to eat, like, you have to be on paleo or you have to be high protein? Is that still going to be true? This is the danger of having things be these universal positions, right? And this is one of the things, like, I don't do politics on this show, but this is one of the things that I'm not like a super fan of just in general, is partisanship. This idea that I am this thing through and through, and I'll never be anything else. I won't consider anything else. Like, for example, I love C++. I love it. It's my favorite language. It's the language that I'm going to probably code in for the rest of my life. I'll constantly be programming in C++. Is this code C++? It is not. Does that mean that I'm not going to work with this thing because it doesn't do C++? It does not. Why? Because I can roll with the punches. I can be like, well, this is JavaScript, and I need to work within the constraints of this thing. So I'm going to just, I'm going to bend here. I'm going to be able to roll with the punches. I'm going to go with the tide. I'm not going to say, well, because this is not C++, I refuse to use this. I will not use it. Like, don't become that person. And that doesn't apply just to this. It applies to almost anything. That there can be these phases where something comes in and something goes out. And that's okay. That's part of life. That's growth. Okay. I have no idea how I got on that tangent, but let's go back now to our comment. The dwarf forest. So that's great. Caves of Kud. And this comment about more focused on gameplay than graphics. That's how we went down this rabbit hole. In my opinion, games as platforms could solve this by offering much more potential in the long run. For example, Minecraft has become a foundation for endless mods, plugins, player-created content instead of traditional static game. I find this format incredibly... I think he's trying to say, I find this kind of format an incredible perspective where players can expand and evolve the experiences ourselves, making the game's lifespan virtually endless or limitless. And I absolutely agree, which is part of the reason why I like to code. Is I think of code, truthfully, here's a little tidbit about me. I think of life as a role-playing game. Like, this is our role-playing game. And these are our daily quests. And these are our stats. And these are our things. And so as far as the game that we're playing here and us players like adding content, that's what's happening with GTT. And that's actually what's happening with this. Is that I'm putting this out here to share with other people so they can fiddle with it, they can grow it, they can change it, they can do whatever they want. And now they have like a starting point. So it's like a collaborative type of thing. And I think of most of the things that I do in this perspective of trying to enable others to expand the experience. Even Nodeka was designed so the builders can build areas and items and mobs without ever touching the source code. They don't need to know anything about coding. Similarly, the players can build their own clan halls and they have areas. I didn't go too far just because I could go full like Minecraft, but I hadn't thought about that. I'm just gonna be honest, hadn't thought about that deeply enough to figure out how to do this in a way that would be super meaningful, I think. And you could do wacky things to cheat majorly if you were allowed control to do have like free reign, basically based on design decisions I've made in Nodeka. Like for example, okay, let me give hey Namraj, okay, let me give you one quick example of what I mean. In the world maps that we saw, some of these question marks are clan halls. One of the things that we allowed on Nodeka is that you could have the entrance to the clan hall and people could come in and exit through that. But what would sometimes happen is people would, they have a special name for this on MMOs, I forget it, but they will just wait outside of the clan hall to stop the players from leaving the clan hall. It's like pretty, what do they call this? They'll like stake them out. There's a specific word. I feel like Asmon would know. Anyway, so the way to combat this, to make it so players didn't get trapped in their own clan hall, is we allow them a secret exit that will allow them to jump to a specific location in the map from one room that only they know about. So you're inside their clan hall. Let's say their clan hall is here. And this expands to a full area, right? And then there'll be one exit from here that does not go out this way. It'll like drop them here. Now, the trick is that they need to make sure that people don't know that it'll drop them here. And what a lot of people did is they would make this room, let's say this room right here, the connecting room, and then they can go north, east, south, west, so they can drop in 4 different directions from that one room. It'll almost appear like it's this room, but it won't be this room. Again, it's the way the Nodeka is designed, is you can have multiple rooms connect to the same room, and it will logically make sense in the game. It doesn't make sense in the physical world. Hopefully this makes sense as I'm explaining it. Okay, so that will save the players in the clan from being trapped in their clan hall when a big mob of people are trying to trap them, right? However, if we don't monitor it, they could do things like make the exit the location of a mob boss room that is super hard to get to, and they just exit their clan hall and go right to that mob boss. You could do it. Like, Nodeka has no problem with that. And what some of the players were doing with some of the less knowledgeable staff is they were tricking the staff into letting them have an exit that would be like right around something like this, which would then allow them an unfair advantage of basically being able to game this area that other people would have to actually walk to, specifically when the area is repopping or the game is back up from a reboot, this type of thing, right? So the point is that because of the way Nodeka is designed, and some of the things that we support, if we allowed players to have free reign to do just kind of all kinds of wacky things, they could potentially game the system, and then they could have an unfair advantage. This is on me. And also, this hopefully gives you some guidance on, or maybe some understanding on how the design decisions that you're making for the game can impact its ability to have growth in certain areas. For example, like what he's describing is, I think, I'm not sure, but I think with Minecraft, it tries to represent a real world in that all the aspects of it rely on mechanics that are valid in the real world. So in Nodeka, right, like I was saying, that a room can connect to another room, even though that room doesn't connect back to it. And so then you can have people just magically appear in this room. It's like, how did you get here? It's like, oh, well, this is like this teleportation thing. But in the real world, we don't have the ability to just drop in like this. And that can be a massive difference in terms of things like players being able to build stuff. Because if players build stuff, just in case the connection here isn't super clear, if players are building things, but it requires the physical world physics of it, then if something doesn't exist, like they're trying to expand their area, but there's a town next to them, well, the town exists. They can't just like overrun the town, or maybe they can in Minecraft, but those two things can't exist at the same time. Like it's going to be one or the other, or at least that's my understanding of it. The higher order point I'm trying to make is that as you're making decisions about your game, those decisions are going to have consequences, both good and bad. And so just be careful that if you want to build something like this, where you can have player-driven content, which, by the way, Nodeka supports in a small capacity, like the clan halls. And I think I wanted to eventually build like player halls. They can do like their own descriptions. There's other stuff that they have that they can do. Like they can do their own bounties on each other and stuff. It's really just up for them to decide. But it doesn't allow them the level of control or mods or things like I think you can do with Minecraft, or even things like Cyberpunk, or various others. Stardew Valley, that they made like the Baldur's Gate version of it or something. So yeah, I love that. And I have one more comment that I'd like to make about the graphics, and then maybe this will be the final comment for the night. I want to share that I think that if you're creating a game, my view is the gameplay and the enjoyability of the game should be near the top of your list. And that I would strongly recommend you don't get too overly concerned with graphics. If you know how to program graphics already, like you can do DirectX, you can do OpenGL, all those things. By the way, like I have a reasonable amount of experience in OpenGL, but I intentionally didn't build a graphical system for Nodeka. And part of the reason why I didn't do this, just to be super clear, is that graphics systems, because they're meant to be bleeding edge, they also get dated very fast. So once you start committing yourself to a graphical representation, just be ready for that to become dated very soon. Like we haven't reached the fidelity level to where I think that stuff has tapered off. Whereas I think it has tapered off in other mediums, like, for example, text. I think text, there's more words and stuff that we're creating, but mostly I think text is, you can build a game that's text and then you can extend it, and the text is not going to change like drastically to where the underlying system is going to be just gone in 6 months. You have to upgrade to the new text system. I mean, that might have existed when Unicode was coming out, but I think we're probably in a better spot now today. Similarly, like if you have audio, I think audio is a good example of it's reached sort of this critical mass where they're trying to do things to, I think, try to level up audio. But at some point, I think that the technology becomes sufficient for our uses, I think, as humans. And it's like, this is good enough. For example, this spatial audio thing that they have with music these days, I've tried listening to it, and I gotta be honest, I'm not hearing much difference. Or if I'm hearing a difference, maybe what I'm trying to say is I'm not sure that the difference is better. It's not shocking to me. Whereas graphics, on the other hand, like just think about the improvements that we have from even from something like HD to 4K. And before that, HD to from SD. Right, so like 480p to 1080p is like, in my mind, visually a notable difference. And then 1080p to 4K, I've seen, so one of the monitors I have is 1080p, but the main monitor is 4K. And I can see the difference. I can, once the font gets small enough on the 1080p, I can't read it, but I can read it over here. Not because this monitor is bigger, but because this one does 4K better and it doesn't become pixelized. Whereas over here, it's pixelized. It's just not high enough resolution. Now, is 4K going to be like the limit and then 8K is not going to add much? Probably. I think we're reaching the level of fidelity that we have potentially with text and audio, with graphics, maybe. But I would still let it cook. and focus more on the game engine, the game mechanics, the game story, all those details that require great care, and you'll likely kill it. You'll likely do amazing things, because one of the things that these big studios also have a limited amount of, the same that you have, is time. They have the same limited amount of time per day that you have. They may have an entire team and all that stuff, right? But think about it like this. Most of the people, and this is really the entrepreneurial spirit, right? This is why I think doing things like startups is fun, creating stuff that's indie is fun, doing things like GTT is fun, is that what I find is that big companies that are attracting people that potentially are more mercenary in nature, or that are doing their thing because they're like good at game development, but they're not necessarily doing it because they're dying to create the next Nodeka, right? Then what happens is you have a difference in care. You have the indie developers or the startups that have deep, deep care. They're super missionaries, and it's amazing what a single missionary can do. And an entire team of people that are mercenaries cannot do, simply because of the care. On top of that, like, you'll be also, I think, amazed with the things that missionaries won't do. So, for example, missionaries oftentimes won't waste time fighting about things that are nonsensical, because they just are not interested in that. They're interested in getting things done. But mercenaries will spend huge amounts of time fighting over things that are mostly just worthless. Like, Bob is making $10 a month more than I'm making. You guys need to fix this. And then the manager is like, listen, both of you guys are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Does it really matter? And it's like, yeah, it does matter. It's a principles thing. And then, like, someone that deeply cares, a missionary, would be like, I don't care. That's irrelevant. The $10 difference, it could be $1,000 difference. It doesn't matter. What matters is I have the opportunity to build something great, and I'm going to do that. Like, this is also why missionaries end up being able to do incredible things. They don't waste time on stupid things like this. They instead go out to demonstrate that vibe coding has issues, but vibe coding can also be cool. And they end up building something that, like, suddenly gets open sourced, and then maybe people start using it, right? Like, this is the kind of wacky stuff that will happen with missionaries. All right. So I think that's it for tonight. We didn't get to Taylor's comment, but we'll get to that maybe next time. And we have, I think, actually started to tease out a little bit about this, starting to piece together different pieces to build a game. And one piece of that is building infrastructural toys that will help you. So if you're really interested in creating a game, you being able to vibe code your way into something small like this, that's like an infrastructure tool, I think that can be super helpful, like supremely helpful. And I strongly recommend you use that. Just also strong recommend, don't use this for production. Do not use it for production. I'm mostly just trying to save you from yourself. That this code right here, it may look like it's mostly right. This is hanging on by a strand. Like, we already saw that it wiped out our images. Imagine if you have a customer. Imagine the customer that's sitting around here thinking this is super robust, and they've created 1,000 images, but they haven't yet hit the save button. And then they decide to resize this, and then the images just vanish. Imagine how angry they're going to be that they put all of their trust and faith in your thing, and you knew that it was a vibe code thing that wasn't ready for production, but you sent it out there anyway. You now have maybe made a non-friend for life. So again, be responsible. Like, with great power, which is vibe coding, please be very responsible. All right. That's all I got, guys. Let's see if we can get the dog to come and say hello before we adjourn. Come here, buddy. Come here. Merle, you want to come up here? Come on. You want to come? Do you want to come? Come on. Come on, buddy. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah, he was just taking a nap. All right. Yes. Oh, super. Yeah. I'm glad I really enjoyed this too. I'm glad we got to do this. These are getting more and more fun, and you're seeing my progress. I am, by the way, taking this vibe coding thing very seriously. As you can tell, like I'm trying to make it as good as I can. And I am getting somewhat frustrated at various points, like when it does stuff like what it did tonight. And you can see sometimes I'm a super patient person, but you'll see sometimes I'll talk to it in all caps. I want to share one thing that was super wacky before I hang up, and that is when I upgraded to Pro, it wiped out my whole project. Thankfully, I had already made a backup of all the code because it's what I do. Because I expected that things will go wrong, and when they did, this is no big deal. But just be ready for that. Again, these are toys, and they are not treated with the same rigor. So if you get far along with your vibe coding thing, I strongly recommend you back up that code, and not just in an email or a Word doc or whatever. Like, put it in a a thing that's gonna be something that sticks around. Hey, buddy. Yeah? That's something you want to say? Do you want? Oh, you just want? He just wants to give the kisses. Okay. Well, yeah. Not the experience you want. That's actually exactly what I thought. Is I went and I bought the upgraded version, and then everything broke, and I'm like, cool. I don't know if that's the best user experience you want, Google. But anyway, I was able to get beyond it. But these are the real dangers you potentially run into when you're doing your vibe coding stuff. It's real. Very powerful, super cool for ideation, and can build some great prototypical stuff, low fidelity, but not all puppy dogs and rainbows. Just make sure that you put that the weapon that you got in on safety and that kind of thing. Holster it, put it in the safe, that kind of thing. Okay. Thanks, everybody. You guys have a great rest of your evening. And please leave tons of comments about things that you have thought about with video games. And we can iterate on those some more, like we did on this one. All right. Bye-bye.